أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين الصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين خاتم النبيين بالقاسم محمد وأهل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين المعصومين الذين أذهب الله عنهم الرجس وطهرهم تطهيرا اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد أما بعد السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. Welcome to Dua Tawassul program on this Tuesday night. Inshallah, we will start with the recitation of dua, followed by a brief speech. But before we begin, a quick announcement and a reminder, inshallah, tomorrow night, Wednesday, December 30th, at 8:30 p.m., we will have our annual end of the year fundraiser, of course. And this will be all virtual, and that's why dinner is minus. And inshallah, we can make up the dinner next year when the pandemic is over. But we welcome all of you to please join us via Zoom or through our Masjid-e-Ali YouTube channel. And inshallah, you will come with your open hearts tomorrow night to donate for this very dear cause, and that is Sadiq School, which is, inshallah, upcoming. School has started activities. The building is, inshallah, going through the final stage of it, as you can see, by coming to the site. So Masjid and Sadiq School fundraising event, once again, tomorrow night, December 30th at 8:30 p.m. We will have special messages from scholars around the world. His Eminence, Grand Ayatollah Sheikh Bashir Najafi, Sheikh Fadl al-Sahlani, Sheikh Muhammad al-Hilli, and Sayyid Amar Naqshwani, amongst some of the reciter or the messages that will be given tomorrow. So thank you, inshallah, for paying attention to this announcement. Inshallah, we'll proceed with the recitation of Dua Tawassul. For that, I would request Brother Ghulam Haider to go ahead and start us off.
إن الله وملائكته يصلون على النبي يا أيها الذين آمنوا صلوا عليه وسلموا تسليما اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم اللهم إني أسألك وأتوجه إليك بنبيك نبي الرحمة محمد صلى الله عليه وآله يا أبا القاسم يا رسول الله يا إمام الرحمة يا سيدنا ومولانا إنا توجهنا واستشفعنا وتوسلنا بك إلى الله وقدمناك بين يدي حاجاتنا يا وجيها عند الله اشفع لنا عند الله يا أبا الحسن يا أمير المؤمنين يا علي بن أبي طالب عليه السلام يا حجة الله على خلقه يا سيدنا ومولانا إنا توجهنا واستشفعنا وتوسلنا بك إلى الله وقدمناك بين يدي حاجاتنا يا وجيها عند الله اشفع لنا عند الله يا فاطمة الزهراء يا بنت محمد يا قرة عين الرسول يا سيدتنا ومولاتنا إنا توجهنا واستشفعنا وتوسلنا بك إلى الله وقدمناك بين يدي حاجاتنا يا وجيهة عند الله اشفعي لنا عند الله يا أبا محمد يا حسن بن علي أيها المجتبى يا ابن رسول الله يا حجة الله على خلقه يا سيدنا ومولانا إنا توجهنا واستشفعنا وتوسلنا بك إلى الله وقدمناك بين يدي حاجاتنا يا وجيها عند الله اشفع لنا عند الله يا أبا عبد الله يا حسين بن علي أيها الشهيد يا ابن رسول الله يا حجة الله على خلقه يا سيدنا ومولانا إنا توجهنا واستشفعنا وتوسلنا بك إلى الله وقدمناك بين يدي حاجاتنا يا وجيها عند الله اشفع لنا عند الله يا أبا الحسن يا علي بن الحسين يا زين العابدين يا ابن رسول الله يا حجة الله على خلقه يا سيدنا ومولانا إنا توجهنا واستشفعنا وتوسلنا بك إلى الله وقدمناك بين يدي حاجاتنا يا وجيها عند الله اشفع لنا عند الله يا أبا جعفر يا محمد بن علي أيها الباقر يا ابن رسول الله يا حجة الله على خلقه يا سيدنا ومولانا إنا توجهنا واستشفعنا وتوسلنا بك إلى الله وقدمناك بين يدي حاجاتنا يا وجيها عند الله اشفع لنا عند الله يا أبا عبد الله يا جعفر بن محمد أيها الصادق يا ابن رسول الله يا حجة الله على خلقه يا سيدنا ومولانا إنا توجهنا واستشفعنا وتوسلنا بك إلى الله وقدمناك بين يدي حاجاتنا يا وجيها عند الله اشفع لنا عند الله يا أبا الحسن يا موسى بن جعفر أيها القاسم يا ابن رسول الله يا حجة الله على خلقه يا سيدنا ومولانا إنا توجهنا واستشفعنا وتوسلنا بك إلى الله وقدمناك بين يدي حاجاتنا يا وجيها عند الله اشفع لنا عند الله يا أبا الحسن يا علي بن موسى أيها الرضا يا ابن رسول الله يا حجة الله على خلقه يا سيدنا ومولانا إنا توجهنا واستشفعنا وتوسلنا بك إلى الله وقدمناك بين يدي حاجاتنا يا وجيها عند الله اشفع لنا عند الله يا أبا جعفر يا محمد بن علي أيها التقي الجواد يا ابن رسول الله يا حجة الله على خلقه يا سيدنا ومولانا إنا توجهنا واستشفعنا وتوسلنا بك إلى الله وقدمناك بين يدي حاجاتنا يا وجيها عند الله اشفع لنا عند الله يا أبا الحسن يا علي بن محمد أيها الهادي النقي يا ابن رسول الله يا حجة الله على خلقه يا سيدنا ومولانا إنا توجهنا واستشفعنا وتوسلنا بك إلى الله وقدمناك بين يدي حاجاتنا يا وجيها عند الله اشفع لنا عند الله يا أبا محمد يا حسن بن علي أيها الزكي العسكري يا ابن رسول الله يا حجة الله على خلقه يا سيدنا ومولانا إنا توجهنا واستشفعنا وتوسلنا بك إلى الله وقدمناك بين يدي حاجاتنا يا وجيها عند الله اشفع لنا عند الله يا وصي الحسن والخلف الحجة أيها القائم المنتظر المهدي يا ابن رسول الله يا حجة الله على خلقه يا سيدنا ومولانا إنا توجهنا واستشفعنا وتوسلنا بك إلى الله وقدمناك بين يدي حاجاتنا يا وجيها عند الله اشفع لنا عند الله يا وجيها عند الله اشفع لنا عند الله يا سادتي وموالي إني توجهت بكم أئمتي وعدتي ليوم فقري وحاجتي إلى الله وتوسلت بكم إلى الله واستشفعت بكم إلى الله فاشفعوا لي عند الله واستنقذوني من ذنوبي عند الله فإنكم وسيلتي إلى الله وبحبكم وبقربكم أرجو نجاة من الله فكونوا عند الله رجائي يا سادتي يا أولياء الله صلى الله عليهم أجمعين ولعن الله أعداء الله ظالميهم من الأولين والآخرين آمين رب العالمين اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد.
أحسنتم جزاكم الله. Inshallah, before I start, let's remember all of those people who are in need of dua, those who are suffering, going through a difficult time, health-wise. There are many mu'mineen who are, have tested positive for COVID-19. Let's make dua for all of those people that may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give them a quick and swift recovery, inshallah, by reciting this verse from Surah Naml together 5 times. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Amma yujibul مضطر إذا دعاه يكشف السوء عمن يجيب المضطر إذا دعاه ويكشف السوء أمن يجيب المضطر إذا دعاه ويكشف السوء عمن يجيب المضطر إذا دعاه ويكشف السوء أمن يجيب المضطر إذا دعاه ويكشف السوء ويجعلكم خلفاء الأرض إله مع الله قليلا ما تذكرون. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. Also, I request that all of you please make a recite a Surah Fatiha for all of the people that we have lost in the recent past, all of our marhumin, mu'mineen, mu'minat. Surah Fatiha. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Maliki yawmiddin. إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم الصراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد وعجل فرجهم. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين. الصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين خاتم النبيين أبي القاسم محمد وأهل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين المعصومين الذين أذهب الله عنهم الرجس وطهرهم تطهيرا. أما بعد، فقد قال الله تبارك وتعالى وقوله الحق وهو أصدق القائلين. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. والذين إذا أنفقوا لم يسرفوا ولم يقتروا وكان بين ذلك قواما. صدق الله العلي العظيم. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. The verse that I chose for tonight's discussion is from Surah Furqan, chapter number 25 from the Holy Quran, ayat number 67. These are the ayat in which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is counting the attributes of an elite group of people known as Ibadur Rahman. And one of those attributes, he says, those who are neither wasteful nor tight-fisted when spending, but balanced between these two extremes, or those who follow the path of moderation when it comes to spending. Of course, there are different levels of people and different types of people and different spending, methods that people have, or their limits. And sometimes the state that we live in, or the our situation that we are in, it requires that sometimes you spend for the thing that you may come in need later on, or there's a fear of certain things running out, so you go ahead and spend more. So different people have different spending habits, and of course it all depends on your spending power as well. And this is where you check and keep an eye on how much you make and how much you earn, so that your spending is below that, so that you do not overspend, so you do not become extravagant when it comes to spending. And similarly, at the same time, you're not tight-fisted when you should spend, and you should go ahead and remove this wealth from you and spend it in the right way. You're not tight-fisted, so you're between these two extremes, and that's what the word qawam over here refers to. With the advent of credit cards and things like that in our possession, which gives us spending power, a lot of time people think that because I can get an approval, or I can get approved for some credit limit, that means, or for example, I can get approved for $5,000 or $10,000 credit limit, that means I can go ahead and spend that much money, as long as I'm making the minimum payment on these credit cards. That is something which is a shari'i mas'ala, which is not permissible. You cannot use this credit card when you are making minimum payments. That is something which is going to incur interest upon it, and interest is something which is haram. So therefore, a lot of time people have this misunderstanding. They'll keep many credit cards with them, and they'll use different ones at different times when they are maxing out their limits on all of them, for whatever reason it may be. And they say, well, as long as I can just make $20 a month or $30 a month or $35 a month minimum payment, that's all that matters. And this is where the debts start increasing upon you. And that's something which is not permissible, not according to any of the Maraji, or at least according to Atul Sistani, for sure, that a person, you're not allowed to make minimum payments on credit cards. You can only use credit card as a comfort of, replacement of not carrying cash with you when you make full payment on it. So you can use the credit card as much as you want to, as long as you don't leave any balance on it, which would then incur, APR or the fine, the interest upon it. So that's something which is clearly mentioned in the istiftat of the Maraji. So the only time you can use it is when you make the full payment. Now, there are certain places where, of course, you are allowed to pay the interest, which is only given as a choice in the case of ijbar and majburi, where you don't have any choice. So the places where you don't have any choice, for example, when you buy a house, not many people have that sort of cash with them where they can go ahead and buy a house, which is according to their status. So of course, they're going to be bound to getting a mortgage, a loan from, a bank. And therefore, you will be making whatever amount of principal that you'll be paying. And on top of that, bank will be loaning you this money based on certain, certain interest rate. And that's you're bound to pay that. So of course, even that is not permissible, but because of this majburi, that there isn't any work around that, Maraji have given the permission, but it still remains as the interest. But of course, when we live in this part of the world, rarely does anyone would be able to go ahead and afford and buy a house according to their status, where without getting the loan from the bank. So that's one place where this exception is. And similar exceptions exist when it comes to education or that which is a necessity of life, such as, for example, a car. But overspending on a credit card, knowing that you can't make the payments, is something which is not allowed. So the ayat which I recited from Surah Furqan, ayat number 67, says, "Those who are neither wasteful nor tight-fisted when spending, but balanced between these two." The word infaq is used over here, and it develops a different flavor altogether. And it's not referring toward any spending. That means spending for your household needs. That's not what is being referred to. Infaq, or giving, is not restricted to insan. It can be seen all over the universe. Infaq is when you go ahead and spend in the way of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, وَأَنْفِقُوا مِمَّا رَزَقْنَاكُمْ, and spend from that which we have given you. So return it. Of course, when Allah says we have given you, that means He's saying to you that it's not your property, it's not your belonging to begin with. So you should not have any pain in detaching yourself from this wealth. So we see that this phenomena of giving is not restricted to insan only. It can be seen all over the universe. For example, sun that shines upon us every single day. It releases energy at a mass energy conversion rate of 4.26 million metric tons per second, which produces the equivalent of 38,460 septillion watts per second. Che infaq bala tarizin. What could be a bigger, spending or infaq, bigger than this? That what this sun does to you. The trees, they produce tons of edibles every day, bring out from the heart of the land. Therefore, we understand from this that it is, a universal and natural law to give. When it comes to the sun and when it comes to the trees, they're giving away to others for the sake of others. In reality, Allah inspired the earth, the land, and the soil to deliver its goods to the trees and to the flowers. He inspired the flowers to deliver their extract or the syrup, right, to the bees, the nectar that they take from it. He then inspired the honeybees to put this in the possession of human being, ikhtiyar of insan. As the ayat of Surah Nahl 69 clearly indicates, ثُمَّ كُلِي مِن كُلِّ الثَّمَرَاتِ فَاسْلُكِي سُبُلَ رَبِّكَ ظُلُلًا يخرج من بطونها شراب مختلف ألوانه فيه شفاء للناس. That eat Then eat of every fruit and follow the path of your Lord submissively. Allah is giving this command to these honeybees. From out of their bellies comes a drink of different colors in which there's what? Cure for mankind. So again, this is an infaq from honeybees to mankind, that there's what? There's cure and there's shifa in what they are producing. Thus we can derive those who stay away from infaq are lower than this land, the soil, the animals, and the other objects in the world which are giving in the way of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That's why our eighth Imam, Imam Ali ibn Musa Rada alayhi salatu wasalam, said, As-sakhiyu qareebun min Allah, qareebun min al-jannah, qareebun min al-nas, wal-bakhilu ba'idun min Allah, ba'idun min al-jannati, wa ba'idun min al-nas. Sakhi, generous, is someone who's close to Allah, close to the paradise, and close to the people as well. And bakhil, miserly, is someone who's away from Allah, away from paradise, and even away from the people. So even infaq is, sometimes limited. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is not saying that go ahead and give everything out. The dispense of khums and zakat is accordingly and not extravagance. When it comes to the concept of zakat, 2.5%, the nisab of the different things upon which zakat is obligatory. When it comes to khums, it's 1/5, 20% on the savings, not the entire thing. So a lot of time people think it's a great burden that we have to pay this khums. It's 1/5, that too on your savings and not your earnings. So that's not extravagant at all. Because more than the limit, it will bring what? Hardship upon you. The biggest example of infaq is this heart that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has placed in your heart. Its job is to, and it fits perfectly with this ayah of Surah Furqan that I recited for you, that it holds back and then it gives some. It's not extravagant. It's between the two. Its job is to do what? Its job is to supply blood to all parts of the body, all the cells. But at the same time, it holds back enough blood for itself. If it pumped more than required, there's trouble for you. If it's pumping less than what is required, there's trouble for you. So holding back too much is against the law of nature. And that's what this ayat comes in. We find that holding back has been mentioned in other places in the Quran. Surah Bani Israel, it says, وَلَا تَجْعَلْ يَدَكَ مَغْلُولَةً إِلَىٰ عُنُقِكَ وَلَا تَبْسُطْهَا كُلَّ الْبَسْطِ فَتَقْعُدَ مَلُولًا مَحْسُورًا. Do not be stingy nor over generous. Why? Lest you become empty-handed and bankrupt. So don't become stingy, miserly. Don't become over generous. Keep something which is moderation in between the two of these things. So another shubha is, where we see that a lot of this is created when we look at these different concepts that are mentioned in the Quran when it comes to infaq, how much should we give and how much should we hold back. Imam alayhi salatu wasalam, when he was asked about this ayat of Quran, this وَالَّذِينَ إِذَا أَنْفِقُوا لَمْ يُسْرِفُوا وَلَمْ يَقْتُرُوا وَكَانَ بَيْنَ ذَلِكَ قَوَامًا, that these Ibadur Rahman, these people, these elite group of people, when they do infaq, they are neither extravagant nor stingy, but they keep something which is in between. So Imam wanted to give practical example. He picked up some sand from the ground. It's a desert area, right? So he picked up some sand and he said, if I keep my fist tightly closed like this, tight-fisted, this is called iqtitar. Alladhi dakarallahu fi kitabihi. That means imsak. That means holding back. And then Imam said, if I open my hand completely, all the sand, drops from my hand. He said, had israf. That is being referred to in this ayat of Quran. Then Imam said, you pick up, you let some go, and you keep some for yourself. This is qawam, and this is referred to as i'tidal. And therefore we understand that is what is being meant over here, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala does not want you to be over generous, that you become in need tomorrow, so you keep some for yourself, but it does not want you to hold everything back and your hands tied behind your back so that you're not helping out at all. So do not get into, sometimes we get in the habit with saying, well, we're going through a difficult time it's difficulty, and therefore there's rarely enough for us. How are we going to go ahead and spend? And a lot of time people will say, well, Allah has not given us, even when they're not going through difficulty, Allah has not given us enough. We barely make it to ourselves. This is where they need to be reminded of this ayat of Surah Al-Imran 134, that الَّذِينَ يُنْفِقُونَ فِي السَّرَّاءِ وَالضَّرَّاءِ, those who spend in ease and adversity. It doesn't matter how much or how little. It is those who spend in ease and in adversity, that when they're going through adversity, they're still able to spend. Of course, little. They will not be spending too much in the way of Allah, little. But when they're at ease, their hands will be much wide open. So these are the people that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala refers to, Wallahu yuhibbul muhsinin. These are the people who are considered to be the virtuous ones. So sometimes people look where they spend, where to spend their wealth. Alhamdulillah, we don't have to look much further than what is in front of us. And inshallah, the whole discussion that I wanted to bring in tonight, as I have run out of my time, is that tomorrow, make sure that you open up your hearts. You have these facilities in front of you, which have been serving our community for a long, long time. And therefore, it's an opportunity for you to go ahead and spend in the way of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. For everything that is spent here in the way of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is actually being deposited in your accounts in the hereafter. So if you want to cash it out tomorrow in the hereafter when you are in need of it, then of course you need to go ahead and deposit something over here. The more you deposit, the more you will benefit over there. So therefore, this is just a humble request, inshallah, and we'll speak about this tomorrow night as well. More, once again, a reminder that tomorrow we'll have our end of the year, all virtual fundraiser. And make sure that you're ready. Join us at 8:30, inshallah, with all your presence. And the program that we have for you is a phenomenal program, which we will produce, inshallah, tomorrow night. And we look forward to your participation in it, physically joining us, virtually, spiritually, and however way, support that you can give by giving the word out, getting the word out, your moral support, your financial support, all of those are welcome, inshallah. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to give us the tawfiq and ability to live up to this ayat of Quran, that we are active spenders in the way of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, whether it's at ease or it's in difficult time. Wa akhiru da'wana alhamdulillahi rabbil alameen. Mutawajjih ziyara. Assalamu alaikum ya Rasulullah, assalamu alaikum ya Nabi Allah, assalamu alaikum ya Habib Allah, assalamu alaikum ya Khiyaratullah, assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Assalamu alaikum ya Abu Abdullah, assalamu alaikum ya Rasulullah, assalamu alaikum wa ala jaddika wa abik wa ala ummika wa akhik wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Assalamu alaikum ya gharib al-ghuraba, assalamu alaikum ya mu'in al-du'afa wal-fuqara. السلام عليكم شمس الشموس عنيس النفوس أي المدفون بعرض طوصلي ابن موسى الرضا ورحمة الله وبركاته. السلام عليكم صاحب الأسر والزمان. السلام عليكم إمام الإنس والجان. السلام عليكم شريك القرآن. أجل الله تعالى فرجك وسهل الله مخرجك وظهورك وجعلنا من أعوانك وأنصارك ورحمة الله وبركاته. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.